Welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kasturi and I make a lot of reading vlogs, book recommendations and wrap-up videos. Today's video is a recommendation video. I want to talk about some of the most weirdest books that I have read, but they are so incredible in their own ways. So let's start with this list. But before that, what exactly are weird books to me? It's anything that just deviates from the normal and that just deals with concepts that are really odd. And I will be talking about all the weird books in terms of literary fiction, thriller, horror, just disturbing in general. So you don't have to worry if you don't read thriller horror. There are some recommendations that are just based on literary fiction that are really strange. So I hope you enjoy this video and let's begin with the first book. So how I've planned this video is to first talk about some stories that are really weird and strange. So we'll talk about the short stories first. We'll then delve into short story collection, and if you keep seeing me look down, that's because I have my notebook right here where I'm referring to the list. So we'll talk about some short story collection and we'll then go into novels. So if you're someone who don't want to read a weird like a novel of like 300 pages, you can just take recommendations of short stories. Or if you're someone who want to read weird stories by different author or even a particular author, then I have some short story collection recommendations for you, and then finally we'll delve into the novels. So let's get into this. This entire list would be absolutely incomplete without The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Now this is the classic weird strange book that's also slightly disturbing. This is about a woman who has been diagnosed with temporary depression and slight hysterical tendencies by her husband, who is a physician. And so she's been asked to just stay at home and not do any chores and just rest the entire day. So she is put in this room in this colonial mansion where she's just staring at this yellow wallpaper. And at some point, it looks like that the yellow wallpaper is taking a form of human and trying to communicate with her. I think this story is actually very powerful because it talks a lot about the role of a woman and how, she is just labeled as hysterical if something just deviates from all the gender roles that the society has constructed. And how I interpreted this story as this yellow wallpaper was almost like a human figure, not just a wallpaper, but it was a symbol of her trying to just break out of this entire restricted area that she has been put in. It's actually a very powerful story, so this is my first recommendation. It's weird, it's strange, but it's really powerful. The next short story that you should need to pick up if you're into weird books is The Welt by Ray Bradbury. This book is actually very interesting. And it's only, I think, like around 45 or 50 pages long. And it's about this family, the mother, father, and the two kids. And they live in a very technological, advanced house. So they don't have to do anything by themselves, not even brushing. And then there is this room for the kids where all their dreams, fantasies just takes a material form. So whatever they're thinking, it just comes to life. And the story goes from there. And there is a bit of surprise at the end, which was very fascinating. And when I read it, I gave it a 5-star. And I think if you're into strange books, you should definitely check this one out. My next recommendation is The Murder of Molly Southbourne by Tate Thompson. This book is actually one of the craziest books that I've read. And the concept of this book is really strange. But they do give you an explanation for why this is happening, which I always appreciate. This is essentially about Molly Southbourne. And every time she is dead, there is a different Molly that is born. I mean, she's incapable of being dead. And every time a new Molly is born, it just has more evil intentions. So you can only imagine the amount of chaos that's going to take place as more Mollys just come in the picture. I think it's a trilogy. It's a really short book. I think it's like 100 pages or 150 pages. But it has like a sequel and then a third book. I have not read the next 2 books. I've just read the first book. And I really enjoyed it. I do plan on picking up the second and the third book. If you want to read like a fast-paced, action-filled book that also deals with this really strange concept, then you should check this book out. My next recommendation is one of the most stunning books that I've read. It's a very short book and it's so lovely and it is so well written, and I can guarantee you will be hooked from page 1. It's called Come Closer by Sarah Graham. I'm sure you must have heard of this book if you are into the horror genre, but if you haven't, let me tell you, this book is about this girl getting possessed. Now you might be wondering that how is that a strange concept or how is that weird? That's because most of the books that I have at least read, actually not most, except this book, all the possession stories that I've read are all from like a different perspective. Like, it's, for example, My Best Friend's Exorcism, where you're seeing that the best friend is being possessed, or something like A Head Full of Ghosts, where a sister is seeing her elder sister being possessed. In this book, the person being possessed, we are just seeing the story from her perspective. And I think that is such a brilliant idea. This story starts with our main character, who is just realizing that there are gaps in her memory, and she's sending out these inappropriate messages and emails to her boss that she doesn't remember drafting. And so all of these things are leading her to believe that maybe she's getting possessed. Maybe there's somebody else in her head. And this is so well done, because you just go through these emotions, and you also see the communication between her and the spirit that is possessing her, and it is so fascinating, and it is such a fresh concept. I've never read something like this, and I am a person who's not into possession stories, but I absolutely love this one. I gave it a 5-star. It was really, really good. And if you haven't read this book, it's also very short, so if you haven't read this book, you need to pick it up right now. Next, I want to talk about an author, and she's an Indian author, and she's written really amazing books. She's written 3 books so far, and I have read 2 of them, and both are incredibly short. I think it's around 120 to 150 pages. I am talking about Anukriti Upadhyay. I think she needs a lot more recognition than she has gotten, because her writing is stunning. Her stories are so fresh. Going by my ranking, out of the 2, I liked Dora the least, and it is written in such a folklore, such a dreamlike sequence, and you as a reader do not understand what you're reading. Is it a real? Is it a myth? What exactly is it? Dora is about a district collector who has been posted in the rural areas of Rajasthan. And there he finds himself drawn to this alluring desert. And there are these different characters. There is this musician who claims to have seen something that's unreal. And we also get perspective from the police, who's trying to piece together what exactly happened to this district collector, what is this mystery about the desert, who is this musician. So you just need to read the book to have it all together pieced up nicely for you. And I can tell you that the ending is spectacular. Although I did not enjoy it as much as I wanted it to be, I just wish it was a little fast paced. But for someone who's just looking for something just, folklore type that just doesn't seem real, and something short, definitely you have to pick up Dora. And my most favorite book by her is Bhori, which is an amazing book. And although it's not really strange or weird in the mainstream sense, I still wanted to include this in the list because it is almost like a character study. It's about this girl named Bhori who gets married into this family, and she's from this really rural area of a village, and there women are taught, like, your husband is everything for you. You are supposed to respect your in-laws and just follow the gender roles that's constructed by the society. Drink every time I say that. And the guy that she's married to, she starts getting completely obsessed with him, and this obsession almost borders to dangerous. And I'll leave it at that. I think it's such a good read. It's so fast-paced, and you're gonna absolutely fall in love with her character. And I love when there is a slight hint of evilness in the female characters that we see in the books. I think it's very, very attractive. So if you are also into something like that, definitely check this book out. Now let's talk about some of the short story collections that are perfect for all those of you looking for some weird reads. The first one is Life Ceremony by Sayaka Murata. I definitely think that Sayaka Murata writes a lot of these stories that have these deeper meanings, that talks about what is meant to be a human and how does society come into the play. I love when social commentary is done really well, and it is done in a form where I am engaged, and it is done in a form where it's a story but you still get the meaning of it. I'm probably doing a very bad job at explaining that, but once you read this collection, I'm sure you'll understand. Life Ceremony deals with this collection of stories that just is set in an alternate reality. And here it deals with a lot of strange topics. The first story deals with the concept that when humans are unalive, people can actually use their skin to make things. And in this story, our female lead is not happy about the fact that her fiancé is completely okay with this fact. In another story, we see a girl who is going to have her first kiss with a boy, but then there is a jealous curtain. Yes, we hear this story from the curtain's perspective. And I think it's absolutely strange and weird, but some of the stories are extremely fascinating. Again, this is one of those recommendations where I did not fall in love with the stories because, it's a very hit or miss with short story collection. And there's hardly ever any short story collection that I have given a 5. I really don't think I have. I think I gave this one a 3.5, but I think some of the stories are extremely memorable. So just for that, you need to pick up this collection. The next short story collection that is just completely strange is They Were Here Before Us by Eric LaRocca. I absolutely love Eric LaRocca's books. This short story collection is actually from the perspective of animals, insects, and birds, which sounds so fascinating itself. And the first story, it's insane. I do want to give out a disclaimer that these stories are extremely disturbing. Some of them are crazy. So if you're not into that stuff, maybe stay a little clear of this book. But if you're looking to just dip your toe into something that's disturbing, but also something completely weird and strange, this is a good place to start. The first story, I think it's a love story between a beetle and a human who's decaying, which is crazy, but it is so fascinating, and I am sure you will find some of the stories that you just cannot forget. The next short story collection that I want to recommend is The Dangers of Smoking in Bed by Mariana Enrique. These stories paints a picture of humanity that is barreling towards darkness. It also talks a lot about morality and what would happen if those moral standards are not met. It just paints this picture of our human race in the most horrifying and in the most melancholy way possible. And this collection also is extremely bold because it talks about crazy fetishes and just things that are very unconventional and weird to the mainstream. Like, one of the story is about this girl who is obsessed with the human heartbeat. I am going to leave it at that because you're going to find out there are even crazier stories in this collection. And once you start, you won't be able to stop reading this. Now let's delve into the novel section. I have 3 novel recommendations for you guys. And my first one is, of course, Haruki Murakami's Kafka on the Shore. This book is, I think, the definition of strange and weird. I cannot even begin to give you a premise of this book. But this is essentially about this boy named Kafka who has left his home, and on his journey he just encounters so many strange things. I think we have like fishes falling from the sky, and it is just a crazy book. I don't want to say too much because I genuinely don't think I am capable of giving you a very proper summary, but definitely read this. Okay, the kids are running in the building and I have to stop filming every time there's so much noise. Kafka on the Shore is extremely surreal, it's strange, and again it just blurs the line between reality and fiction, and also deals with themes of magical realism, which is, I think, of an essential component of a weird or a strange book. But I tell you, you're gonna fly through it. It's super fast paced and extremely fascinating. So if you haven't checked this book out, you need to pick it up right now. The next novel that I want to talk about, and this I really enjoyed, is The Wonder by Emma Donoghue. Now, I know a lot of you have read The Room by Emma Donoghue, but this book is actually very underrated, but I actually like this better than The Room. This is about a nurse, Lib, who is sent to this tiny village to inquire about this miracle girl because she has survived without food for months. Even water, I think she takes like just a spoonful of water every day, but that is it. And it's been months. And some people are claiming this is a miracle, some people think it's a medical anomaly. So she is sent just to confirm what exactly is going on. Is it even real, or is it just some kind of hoax to get a lot of attraction to the village? I think one of the major downfall of this book was its pacing. It's extremely slow paced, especially if you're a plot driven reader. I think this is going to be a little slow for you, but it's just so fascinating. The conversations between the nurse and this child is extremely fascinating. And I absolutely love this book. I loved the character of this nurse. I think she was really like easy to read and just easy to get emotionally attached with. So as a reader, I think you're going to be invested in the story. And this is definitely character focused and character driven story rather than plot. But even then, I really liked it. And I think Emma Donoghue just writes amazing. So you have to check this book out. I really wish this book would get more hype than it does. But if you haven't picked it up, this is your time. And finally, the book that I want to recommend you for this strange stories reading recommendation is If on a Winter's Night, A Traveler by Italo Calvino. Oh my god, this book is probably one of the strangest books that I have read. And again, it is going to be very difficult for me to give you a premise, but let me attempt. So we have a reader who is reading this book called If on a Winter's Night, A Traveler. He reads the book, and then after a chapter or two, he realizes that there is some kind of misprinting. It is not the book. So he goes to another book store or like a library and looks for this book, and the same thing happens. So this book is just the journey of this reader trying to find out if on a winter's night a traveler, the book. I know it sounds a little confusing, but I promise when you read the book, it's going to be easy to understand, easy to follow, and you're definitely going to enjoy it. It does a lot of social commentary about the publishing world, about books, and the people involved in the printing process. It's very fascinating and very interesting. So if you haven't checked this out, this is your sign. So those were all the books that I wanted to recommend you in this video. I want to do more of these videos where I recommend strange, weird fiction to you all. And I think I will do another one once I've read even more underrated, strange, weird books. And I think the more underrated the books are, I think it's more interesting because you get to discover new titles. And through the process of actually doing these videos, I get to discover those titles, which I'm very excited about. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new here and press the notification bell so you get notified every time I post a video. I upload on every Tuesday for now. I do plan on making these videos frequent, but we'll see. For now, it's once a week, every Tuesday. If you have some recommendations for me of any strange, weird books that I should check out, please leave it in the comments below. I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.